and the ancestors are looking out for us. That haze is exposing them, man.
Okay, you see that chair right there? See how big it is?
Yeah.
Now look at the Pope chair under. Scroll down, look at the Pope chair under.
Never have it been made so clear.
Young TV. Young.
We running the game right now.
Young TV.
Time to take over.
Young.
We the hottest in the game. Hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you just not tuned in.
TV.
Share, like on your Instagram, Facebook.
Young TV.
If you tuned in, we broadcasting live from 2030, baby.
Young TV. Young.
Taking over the game, baby. Oh yeah.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Young TV.
Get them likes up in the air, you heard me?
Young TV.
Ride by. Hotel Islam.
Young TV.
Assalamu alaikum. Flown lekker.
Young TV.
Hit that like.
Hey, y'all. Peace. Peace and hair grease. Hey, everybody, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Right? We about to chief on tonight for the Q&A, y'all. This is an open Q&A. Start dropping your questions in the chat. What else I want to say? Notice the agent is notice the principle. You already know oral tradition is one of our ways of life. And we've been oral traditions. We ain't never stopped. That's what they don't want to tell you. We ain't never stopped using oral tradition. We've always, whether it's through the music, whether it's through writings and poetry that our people have put out, we've always been an oral type people, a public notice the agent, notice the principle. So we brought you on tonight. We got a couple clips. We got a couple questions. But you want to say something, Chief, before I hit you with this first question, man? You want to say something to the people?
Make like Queen Latifah and set it off.
Yeah, I like that. I saw that movie on our past. I was like, I should watch it again. Now, the first question we have for you, Chief, is because people out here saying, it's a lot of suckers, man. It's a whole bunch of, when you start doing something good for the people, the suckers gonna show up and try to. These suckers have been always the same guys that said, "Get your hand out of my pocket," in the Malcolm X get down. These same guys, they always pop up and try to deter us and deter our people. So the first question we have for you is: there are people out going around saying that Rod Hayes is a self-proclaimed chief, that he's not federally recognized. So he can't be a real chief because the federal government didn't recognize him. And we answer this question. Go ahead, Rod. Go ahead.
The government.
How do you? Yeah, go ahead.
The government does not make nor recognize who's going to be the chief.
Go ahead.
That's the first thing you got to get. The government know who the fuck Rod Hayes is because they watch me on the Titan Shrine in Raven Rock, Colorado every time I go live. And they just want to know what the public notice is. They just like all of the people watching. You got all them generals in Raven Rock, Colorado. They laughing right now. Like he putting us on blast. Yeah, I'm putting you motherfuckers on blast because I know y'all watching. But the people don't know y'all watching. So I got to tell the people because I ain't hiding shit. I ain't running, I ain't ducking, I ain't hiding. I got the blood, I got the right, and I have a matriarch that says execute your duties as a chief. I don't need nobody else's permission. I went through the whole developmental process since I was a little boy, right? Taking me to all of the big mamas across the land under the pretense of church gatherings, letting them all inspect my physiology. Some of them stuck their finger in my pamper to make sure I wasn't a girl. Right? I'm a little bitty baby. Right? So they once they all signed off, now I gotta go and do my training under my mama to learn how to read code. My mama talked to us our whole life in code. You come up here right now and I start saying some stuff that my mama used to say to my brothers and sisters. They know what I'm talking about, but you be like, that sounds like some crazy shit you saying there, bro. I'm like, no, it ain't crazy. It make perfect sense if you knew what I was talking about. So chiefs are not elected. Chiefs are born. Chiefs are out of the children. A lot of us have the blood and the right, but all of us don't want to do the required effort, the work, the labor part of it, the heavy lifting, the reading so many books that you lose count. I got about 2,000 books down here where I'm at right now. And then I got about another 1,000 in my room. Right? So I'm not reading that shit just because I like reading. I don't mind reading. But they told me that they was hiding it from us in books, so I was going to find it.
That's right, right.
And now that I found it, it don't matter what they say about Rod Hayes at this point. All I can tell them at this point, Elder, is watch and marvel at what comes next. That's all I could tell them. Watch and marvel at what comes next. Because I'm not, this ain't no simple, everybody think, a lot of people that don't know no better, they think I just been this guy talking on the internet for the last 7 years. They don't know, as a chief, that was my assignment. That's my assignment. That's why I'm always on the internet and I'm always at home, because I'm confined to the cave. My assignment is to talk to the airwaves, which is the internet. That's my assignment. I know when you understand the assignment, you just execute. As long as you just execute, the end game gonna show itself. I didn't think it was gonna take 7 years. God damn. You know, but like Tupac said, it took me 5 years in the case. Now these motherfuckers feel me. Right? So there's a whole video where people put clips of what was taking place on how I became the chief. Like part of my story that I told Dr. G, part of clips from Empress Rarebird, all this, because if I get publicly recognized by a matriarch as a chief, there's nobody that can dispute it at that point.
Go ahead,
so
Rod.
if they want to know if I'm really the chief, go to YouTube, type in Rod Hayes, how I became a chief. And that's all I can tell you on that.
My next, hey, everybody hit that like button and everybody share this, let them know Chief on, man. We about to get lit. We warming up, y'all. Hit that like button. For the person that asked for the Chief Cash App, I just dropped it in the links for you. My next question for you, Rod, is that there are people that's going out right now to say that Rod Hayes is and we answered this question before. Because they coming out to us and they attacking me too, saying that we promoting the matriarch more when it's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be balanced. It's gonna be a patriarch and a matriarch balance. They saying it's not going completely back to a matriarch. Why are we promoting the matriarchs full-heartedly right now? Right, and then that's a one-part question. And then so the matriarch. Why are we promoting the matriarch now? Go ahead.
Because over here, if you're from over here, you know that the land is inherited strictly by the motherland. You don't inherit land off the fatherland. You inherit rulership rights, the right to govern over shit and build shit. But under the matriarchy, the women are the ones that hold the wealth of the land. And to restore the women back to their position as they was the politicians. The men was the ones out doing the building and the hunting and the farming and all of the heavy lifting like that. The women was the ones that was sitting around tables discussing problems in the community while we was they come to us if we had expertise and say, here's the problem, what can you do to solve it? Right? Other than that, we out there with the boys teaching boys how to be men. That's the problem now. Everybody's so worried about women rulership. The women rulership incorporates male rulership. Male rulership excludes female rulership. But we don't even know what rulership is. We just think we do because we've been following the rogue, patriarchal, homosexual, pedophile priest code, a sociopathic, psychotic priest masquerading as the voice box of God on earth. That shit retarded. So when we push in the matriarchy, we push in the restructuring of the tribal government, how it was before the colonizer came. We use the grandfather clause in law because the matriarchy has never been overturned by any competent authority of law. Matriarchy is the oldest continuous governmental process on the planet. Because before there was being here, the women was running it by themselves. When they allowed men to come, because they needed to be protected from men coming from other places. Or else you wouldn't have had a Genesis 6 story. They use this stuff to confuse the masses, but some of us, the trick is no good. We see right through the bullshit. And some of us paid attention to the elders so we can get enough information to piece the whole problem together. And under the matriarchy is where we have heaven on earth. We've never had heaven on earth under the patriarchy since it's been here. Not one time.
Right.
But it was heaven on earth before patriarchs came. It was harmony in the arts and the sciences. It was ability to communicate was so much more concise because we didn't need words. We could just feel each other's intentions and know how to move. Now they got us relying on words to solve the problems. So now what could have been passed on energetically where you could have felt everything I was feeling, you no longer empathic because you turned that shit off to be intellectual. I didn't turn my empathic abilities off. I'm still an empath, but I'm also intellectual. I'm only intellectual because it was required to solve the problem created by intellectuals. I would rather be illiterate on the farm, raising my cattle and tilling my ground and tending to my children and my wife than to be doing this shit. A lot of those people don't understand. I got out of prison in 2008. By 2013, I had built up my life. I had multiple vehicles. I had to give it all that. I had to give up everything I worked for in order to do the work for all of us. Because it wasn't no longer about me. Huh?
You had a good ass job.
It was okay. It wasn't real good.
The industry. You worked at the damn GM. GM a good ass job. I did GM.
It used to be, but inflation deflation has hit your purchasing power. You can't buy shit the way you used to be able to working for GM, Ford, and Chrysler.
Damn.
That's going to change. That's going to change. Now, what you do is you have to have an understanding of economics. Once you understand economics, and then you understand the principle of saving, and I didn't buy a lot of shit on credit. I saved money and bought shit outright cash. That kept me ahead of the debt curve. Right? And that kept me where I was always in the ownership position. I lapped guys that's been in the street all while I was doing time. Look, in 86, 87, was 86, 87, I caught my case. I did 6 years on the run. I went to prison and did 16 years, right? Now, I got home, guys I grew up and went to school with that never went to prison. So a lot of them got a lot of county jail time accumulated for petty bullshit. but they were still out here doing petty bullshit. I got out. I had focus and concentration on what I was doing. I wanted to build my life, so I was building my life. Right? Now, when I got my life to right where it was almost to the tip, where I had it exactly where I wanted it, I had to give it all up. For all of us. And I have no problem getting my own. I know how to work. I know how to create a job from nothing. Right? I know how to get it from the dirt. This don't have nothing to do with my assignment to use social media to dump massive amounts of information that half of the people ain't never read, let alone could they remember right now. I just wasn't regular. I sent dudes home from prison to be millionaires with business plans. And they write me back talking about, when you get out, bro, I got you. I'm going to take care of you. Knowing the fuck you not, you can take care of your family and you're going to build your life and I'm going to go build mine when I get home. I don't want no grown man taking care of me. What the fuck I look like? Even though I had an adverse position coming home from prison, I still was determined to build my own life. I didn't need none of this. This ain't for me. This for us. That's where the problem come in at. Everybody think that I'm giving away all this free information and I'm not asking for nothing for some selfish shit. That don't even make sense. That's a square peg in a round hole. I don't care if nobody don't send me nothing because I know how to get my own. Right? So that's why I don't ask for nothing. If people send it, great. If they don't, great. But when I get done, we gonna all have something, not just me. I don't think it would be comfortable to be comfortable in this lifetime around a whole bunch of uncomfortable people. So if I'm gonna build my comfort, why not do something that benefit all of the tribes of the land? That's just a curious question. So the people that don't understand what I'm doing is the ones that's the first not to like me. Until they listen for a minute and they be, wait a minute, he going somewhere with this. This shit means something. It means more than I thought it did. Maybe I pegged bro all wrong. I'm focused on the matriarchy because it's the only governmental structure, tribally speaking, that can overthrow the structure that was here. Because it was the structure that was here when they came. You had the grandfathering in the old system. The matriarchy is what we was under when they came. And it's still in the community. But they moving us closer to patriarchy and individualism away from communal living and matriarchy. We used to believe in helping each other. We don't believe in that shit no more. I was born asking, can I help? And if my mama and daddy was here, I wish they was here just long enough to tell y'all, I've been saying, can I help since I was a little boy. Look, my first major heartbreak, I asked my father, can I help? The watermelon was bigger than me. He said, you can't pick that big old watermelon up. I said, I got it, Pops, I got it. And dropped that motherfucker and it busted. I cried worse than the ass whoopings I got. Because I dropped something in my attempt to help. I was unsuccessful in helping. I created a bigger problem. They tried to comfort me as parents. Oh, it's okay, baby. We just gonna go ahead, pick up this part of watermelon, go ahead, chop it up and pass it out. I'm fucked up that I asked, can I help you? Let me help, and I fucked some shit up. I'm not doing that this time. I'm not jacking it up. I'm gonna follow the process, follow the steps to the finish line. That's all. You don't have to believe me till you see Big Mama and them assemble. Then it'll make sense. Then you'll find out what I've been working on, right? And why certain people had to get put in the way and some people had to get moved out the way. You can only have one great teacher teaching at a time because they're different classes. They different classes. Like the Nuwabian class is not the Ancestral class. He can't use, Imam Issa cannot teach what Malachi York teach. Malachi York can't teach what Amanubi Rakta teach. But y'all looking at it as one vessel. It's a different teacher every time. Now we get to the end game. Now Tahuti come and say, hey, let me put it all together for you since y'all want to play too much. I don't got time to play with y'all. I'm going to put this shit together. I'm going to solve the problem, and I don't want none of the problems afterwards. That's how I roll. Just solve the fucking problem and get out the way. The mechanics of a machine is the same as the mechanics of government. If the mechanics of the machine is in proper working order, it should properly work. If the government is in its proper working order, it should properly work. It's not properly working. How do we know this? If the government was properly working, they wouldn't have to poison us in the food. They wouldn't have to spray shit in the sky to poison us. They wouldn't have to poison the water, right? They wouldn't have to miseducate us if everything was all right. They wouldn't have to lie to us in church every Sunday morning, lie to us every Friday in the masjid, and every Saturday in the synagogue. They wouldn't have to do that if everything was working in this proper order, because we'd have heaven on earth. So now we want everything in its proper order. If the earth is a feminine planet that's supposed to be led by a matriarchy, then goddamn it, set up the matriarchy and let it run the way it's supposed to run. Just because it's a matriarchy, every woman not a matriarch. We gotta get that through y'all head. Every woman ain't the same. We know that in the hood. We know the difference between the bitches, the hoes, the sluts, and the women and the ladies. They all carry themselves different. It's hard to tell now because they all wearing the same goddamn uniform.
Damn.
So you got the ladies standing next to the hoe and you can't tell them apart. By looking, you got to have a conversation with them. And you can tell by the content of the conversation, oh, she's a hoe. Oh, that's a lady right there. Oh, she a full-grown woman. You will know the difference. But most guys can't hear the difference in the conversation between a rotten ass hoe and the holy, divine, feminine empress. You can't tell the difference because you think all women is the same. That's like saying all niggas is the same. We ain't all the same. You got motherfuckers that look like us that ain't us. That's like saying all crackers is the same. They don't even come from the same family tree.
Go ahead,
all of the crackers don't come from the same family tree. The ones that derived in the Caucasus Mountains had afros and pink skin and yellow hair. But the ones that came out of India, they had straight hair. What we call link hair, 6 ether. Right? That's two different stocks of pale face.
Go ahead, right?
That's just the beginning. Then they got subdivisions of those two sections, and then they got other sections like the yellow Asians.
Yeah, Doc said three different types of Caucasians. 3 different types of Caucasians.
Yeah, you got Flugerage, Canaanites, and
Aldebarans.
Yeah, those are the ones that those are the ones they call Aryan, the ones that Hitler was talking to.
Yeah.
They not Aryans. The real Aryans, them inky kids, they look like Michael Jackson family used to look in the early 70s. With the afros and the big noses, they live in India. That's the Aryans. They call them untouchables now because they move Enlil kids to the top of the paradigm in the caste system. That's that simple. And he had more than one wife. One of his wives was Vatica. Vatica come from a mirror universe. Her genetics, she's 2 X's, right? But her anatomy looked male, like a hyena. So that's why she couldn't sit above on Earth in the throne. She had to sit under the Vatican as an archon. She had to be under the Vatican. And that's why the Pope seat had to be under the matriarchal seat, because they underminers, usurpers from a mirrorverse. This is why when you look at Hollywood and you be saying, that's a male skull, that's a female skull. But you're not checking their DNA because the DNA might be inverted. They look male, but they got female anatomy. Like Kim Kardashian, queen of the damn. Or they look female. Or they be female, but they got male anatomy. right? And then you got the ones that only just not got to their human form, and they somewhere between male and female, like Harvey Weinstein. Right? So we have examples of what I'm talking about. People can Google 2X male, XY female. Those people come through the portal gate that Enlil opened when they blew the third dimension in the fourth. He made a covenant with Vatican. That's why the Pope sit in the Vatican City as the sacerdotal seat, but he can't sit on it because he got an Audi. And Vatican can't sit on it either because her anatomy looked masculine in this universe. So that's why you can't always look at something and tell what you get. Next question, Elder. I think they ought to understand why we focused on the matriarch.
Yeah, right. Ain't that Vatican layout? It's a feminine layout, like the just like the City of the Gods, where you got that little plaza where it's like a it looks like the inside of a vagina. Go ahead.
When you look at an aerial view of the Vatican, it looked like a keyhole.
Yeah, that's right. Go ahead.
Right. That's because the symbol for the Vatican is the Pope's hat with two keys, a gold one and a silver one, which indicate the mother and the fatherland. You have to have the blood and the right from both sides of the family to access the right to unlock the Vatican secrets. That's what that means.
Yeah. And it looks just like the layout down at the City of the Gods. It's like they copied it, that layout coming down from the main temple. You
got to remember the sacerdotal seats are, you can trace where they were. The original Temple of Isis was in Arizona and the Grand Canyon.
That's right.
Along with the original Temple of Osiris, the original Temple of Set, the original Temple of Anubis. It's all right there in Arizona in one complex. The original Temple of Buddha. Right? That's all right there. Those are great schools of Atlantis that we now call Atlantis because we anglicized the word Atlant and now it's Atlantis. Right? So the sacerdotal seat, at one time Europa sat on it in Europe. She was earthborn and she wasn't pale. She was caramel colored though. Right? Then then Scotta sat on it with her, and then she co-ruled Ireland and Scotland with her twin sister Scotia. When they got attacked, they came over here. They didn't die in Ireland. But the legends say they did because they escaped. Right? Then you had where Alat sat on the sacerdotal seat where the Kabay is. They still got the Blackstone is her silver vagina. That's the mother line, the vagina. Right? And they call it the Blackstone because you're looking into the abyss, the portal of life. And when you look in there, what you see? You know what's in the Blackstone when you look in it?
No, it's like the little side where it sit with a little silver part at where you can look into that little hole, like the
when you look in the black part, it literally shows you. It looked like a demon crawling out of it, but it's not a demon. And you can Google this.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. I remember looking it up before. You told me about this before.
Now remember the Blackstone is an any.
Yeah, the Audi's in the Central America.
Yeah, the Audi is in Central America at the Temple of Tahuti.
Yeah, that's right.
Fatherline rulership. That's called Enki line. Enki being Lord Key, Earth Lord. In order to get the Lord Key, Earth Lord Key, the fatherline had to have the rulership right. We talking about ancient royalty, and we looking at everything with modern eyes. But when you go back, they didn't see stuff how we see it. They was more complex than we are. We've been simplified and dumbed down. Right? They was amplified and turned up. It's a difference. Right? So what are we looking at? The sacerdotal seat in India was the Temple of Kali. And you will see similarities in the designs, but you will also see marked difference. Right? When the sacerdotal seat was in Japan, it used to be called the golden heel of the lotus flower. I'm talking about the coochie. The golden heel of the lotus flower is the coochie.
Go ahead.
No, y'all, I'm just being 100, man. A lot of us don't know what's going on, so I just gotta tell them. The sacerdotal seat is when it was in Australia. That's why Australia was called the Queen's Land. Ain't got nothing to do with no queens from Europe, because they got the history of when Osset was being chased with Heru across the land. It's down there in their documented history. Why is Egyptian lore documented in Australia? We're not paying attention. That's the top of the earth. They call it the land down under, but everything under Australia is down under. Australia is really the top. They the first ones get the sun. It's the top of the planet. South Pole is up, North Pole is down. They lied to us. They flipped the map to confuse the masses. And as long as we looking at a disoriented map, we disoriented in all of our perception. That's why Dr. Nidhi Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy, everything you think you understand is only confusing you because it's part of the upside down. It's the strategy to enforce the upside down. And the only reason we in the upside down is because of science, conjure magic, and a replacement of a 2X chromosome on the sacerdotal seat that ain't allowed to sit on it. That's all. That's flipped us in the upside down. We looking at the infinity loop all wrong because we see it laid out in 2 dimensions. But what we don't realize is there's a circle at the bottom that's connected to the circle at the top because the 3rd and 4th dimension was crashed together. That's so now you got to split your life between the dream world and the waking world. I mean, you got to get sleep. You didn't need sleep before. When we was the gods, we didn't go to sleep. We just did shit all day and all night. Right? Some of us preferred the cool of the night. Some of us preferred the heat of the day. And some of us was like, I don't care. Whatever time it is, I'm outside. You could tell by the character. The ones who like the cool of the night, they call night walkers, children of the night. The ones that like the light of the day, they call the children of the sun. Right? And together they make up a whole different group called the Melanite children. And somebody I know wrote about all this stuff, but people not paying attention. That's all I'm.
Yeah, Doc wrote about it. Hey, look, hey, Raw, I got one more question for you before I get into one of these clips that I want to break down. I want you to break down. This is my last question before I get into the clips. Now, people, because some dude left this comment, he said, well, everybody think, he says, is Raw batshit crazy because he keep on saying the government shut down, but we see Trump on TV talking. We see government. They think that what they see on TV is the government still in business based on what they looking at TV. Could you explain your perspective on why the government shut down?
I can definitely explain it. Well, first of all, if you've been watching at the time, look at drink out.
Go ahead, get your drink. Hey, y'all hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Show Chief some love on the cash out. Everybody send the links out. Let them know we on, we live, we lit. You know what I'm saying? Everybody hit that like. Go ahead, Chief.
Ask me the question again.
Okay, so he said that, man, Raw must be bad shit crazy because he said the government shut down and we still see it like it's moving on TV. It like it's playing on TV.
I got you. So here's the thing. Rod Hayes is not the U.S. Treasury that said that the United States was insolvent.
They just
Rod Hayes is not the one who issued the statement and said 4 more years and you won't have to make another election. I didn't say that. That came out of the commander-in-chief mouth. Another thing, I'm not the one that said the Federal Reserve is closed and now Trump have to sign on to the gold notes. The government said that. The remnant that's available is only an information side of the military. Most of what you're seeing on TV is central casting, CGI, deep fake, and y'all think it's real. It's more real shit coming across YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok than it is coming across your mainstream media.
That's a fact. Go ahead.
The mainstream media is a propaganda machine. We know this from Operation Mockingbird when they infiltrated the media. We know that I think it was Obama signed a law that allowed them to lie to you in the media and mislead you. Right? I ain't write none of that shit. I'm just telling y'all what it say. Right? So when I say the government closed, it's because they said the government closed. The video where Trump said that that in effect ended the presidency, that was our green light. When he said they in effect ended the presidency, now our government have to step up and catch the fallen government so that the people don't suffer. But we can let this motherfucker crumble to dust, as far as I care, because I can get it from the dirt, nigga. I can go hunting with a motherfucking fork and a goddamn stick off a tree, and I'll get me something to eat. I know how to feed. I know how to feed off the fat of the land, but everybody don't know that. So they thinking this business as usual. They don't know that all of those criminals in DC ain't even there no more. Everything you see going on, they telling you out of DC, right? Ask yourself about some of the people you used to see on TV all the time. Where the fuck they at? Where they at now? You used to see them on TV all the time, and all of a sudden, you just don't hear nobody mention them. I'm talking about politicians, right?
Yeah.
You see them all on TV. All the ex-presidents used to be popping up at events and shit. They none of that going on now. Yeah. What happened? Yeah. Where they at? And then every time you see them, you catch the after the fact footage of it, but never the real time event. Right? But we don't pay that shit no attention. Because we would rather tear each other down than join together to lift us all up together. It's hard work for one person to lift the world by themselves. But the whole world participating, and the whole world can lift the world with ease. And all we needed to do was reach critical mass of awareness in order to flip all of the bullshit. We there.
Right. Yeah, we there. We there
now we have to come out and say, okay, the government gone. Who gonna catch this motherfucker? Whose job is it? If the government fall, whose job is it now? Who do it fall on this land, not nowhere else? I don't care about Africa and Australia and Asia. None of that shit ain't got nothing to do with what we're doing right now. If the United States government fall, whose job is it to reconstitute government that's functional and operational to secure the land and the people? Whose job is it? Because if you don't know whose job it is, then you probably asking questions that's so far above your pay grade that if you got a clear, cohesive answer, you still wouldn't understand what the fuck going on. I can explain physics to a first grader. It don't mean he gonna grasp that shit. Yeah, Rod, batshit crazy, because smart people sound batshit crazy to a goddamn fool. If dumb people cannot comprehend when smart people talk, they get frustrated and angry and they get attitude. Because it's like he using big words. I ain't said one big word. I said, bitch, shut the fuck up. There's no big words in that. But I'm using big words. Man, come on. That's the kind of shit they do, man. I'm just saying. I don't mind answering questions. I done been put out here. I just did I just said something the other day and people shared it. I was like, I'm probably the most questioned motherfucker since Malachi and Farrakhan.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, so next question.
Hey, this next question is stimulated around this clip I'm finna roll. It's dealing around the police and the stuff that we've been talking about the police. So I'm gonna roll the clip and then we'll just talk a little bit on it. Just a really like an overview on what you've been saying about the police. This lady here confirms it over in London, the same thing you've been saying. Let me roll this clip.
Police have no powers of arrest whatsoever. Let that sink in. At the realm of England, we have it on record, on tape, from the Deputy Police Crime Commissioner, nonetheless, admitting that police do not have lawful powers of arrest under the PACE Act as it is currently operating. Apart from the fact that PACE is an act is legislation, and legislation is not common law authority. What we have now is the councils giving licence to the police. The councils have no authority to licence the police or anybody else. Parliament has declared itself sovereign. Parliament is not sovereign. The people are. And the power that we give to our police constables comes from the people by our consent. Cressida Dick nonetheless said, we police by consent. So what has gone terribly wrong? So pause and think. If authority comes from the people, who authorise what we are seeing now? Police are now licensed by the councils. The councils are meant to be public service bodies, public servants. And most of those councils are now bankrupt. They have incorporated, and once incorporated, they are no longer operating as true public bodies. They are operating as corporate entities. And under Section 79 of the Local Government Act 1888, when a council incorporates, the liabilities of the inhabitants shall become the liabilities of said council. Now, liability means responsibility for costs, debts, obligations, your utilities, your mortgages, your council tax. The beat goes on. So by classifying us as the general public, by treating us as legal persons, the system shifts that liability back onto you. You become the person of significant control of a company you never knew you had, i.e. the all caps name legal fiction. You carry the debt, utilities, council tax, mortgages, penalties, fines, but we are the inhabitants of the land, so lawfully those liabilities sit with the council. That's why everything is routed through commerce, contracts, registration, bonds, QSIP numbers and accounts, banking, and that's why everything has reference, and that's why the system double bills. You repay it because means again you pay it twice. Utilities and infrastructure are securities and securitized years in advance. So why are you being charged again? This is called the double dip. Now let's bring this back to policing. So under the common law, for a crime to exist, there must be injury, harm, loss. No harm, no injury, no loss, no crime. So let's keep it simple. For example, if someone is doing 33 in a 30 zone, where is the victim? Who was harmed? Who suffered loss? A speeding camera can't be injured. It can't speak. It can't swear an affidavit. It can't give evidence. This is not a crime. This is administrative enforcement. And we give up our unalienable rights of travel for the benefits and privileges of a state. A police constable is meant to operate under common law, to protect, to keep the peace. They are trained to deal with living men and women. Policy officers are dealing with persons, legal fictions, legislation. So at common law, we have no duty to cooperate with these policy officers' inquiries. Yeah, the general public, that legal status trick is to lower us to the legal fiction collectively. Now, this was confirmed in Rice v. Connolly 1966. You are not obliged to answer questions or assist an investigation. Refusal alone is not obstruction. And that was Rice v. Connolly 1966. It was reinforced in Neil v. DPP in 2020, where a conviction was overturned after a man refused to give his name and address. But it was deemed he had a right to remain silent, and that right was lawful. So when you receive forms asking you to name yourself or another driver, you are being asked to aid their system. Driving is a commercial term. By filling it in, you step into their jurisdiction. Lawfully, you are not required to do that. Police will often ask, do you understand? Which means, do you stand under their jurisdiction? This is why you ask a question back. Asking keeps you in control. Asking as king. So, what we are witnessing is not law. It is compliance with an administrative entity. They are just people in magic uniforms using magic words and magic pieces of paper, now working to target with no lawful powers of arrest whatsoever. They are corporate entities. Policing is supposed to be by the consent of the Parliament, of the people. Not Parliament, sorry. Not councils, not corporations, not acts. Something has gone very wrong. Now let that sink in. Magic people in magic uniforms. All.
Yeah, so Rod, my question is from all that we went over the police's occupied army from out of London. This is why they got the guns. They're doing cohesive and adhesive contracts under threat of coercion in most cases because people are in fear they are being kidnapped. It's not arrest because they can't arrest you without a warrant. That's my first question. Could you break down the warrant, like the etymology of it? Because could you just break that part down? I got a couple questions within this whole thing, though.
So war, we know what war means,
Right?
That's because warrant is a compound word.
Right.
The second part is a rant. When you look up what the word rant means, it means an ongoing declaration.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if it's an ongoing declaration and the first part of the word is war, it's an ongoing war declaration.
Mm-hmm.
So they use the warrant as the instrument to govern people under what they call war protocol. The war protocol that they operate in is called foreign occupancy. Right? So the foreign occupancy, in order to maintain military control, you have to have boots on the ground. You see, I'm talking about invading Iran.
Right.
Right? They don't have to invade Iran. But it's to bring up to us in our mind that this occupying force is on the land. Because you can't, a foreign government can't operate on a foreign land from home. So they have to send representatives to enforce their will and protect their interests. This is where you get policy enforcers. In the video, you heard her say a police constable. There's no such thing. You either a policy enforcer, polizia, or you are a constable in Europe. That's European law.
Yeah.
The constable is the lawman equivalent to the sharif in the Middle East. Right. Which was equivalent to what we call the big red chief.
They got
so this is how we know. Right. But constable is not from over here.
That's right.
The constables is still a continuation of foreign occupation.
That's right.
Right. We use the word sharif or sheriff for a duly elected common law enforcement, but really you have to go through rigorous life training for the part in order to replace the one that's there. We didn't call them sheriff before the introduction of the Arabic language into our dialects, because sheriff comes from sharif, right? So most of the language we speak now, like English, is a amalgamation of almost every language on the planet, which takes you back to the Tower of Babel. So really, we babbling when we don't understand the words and their etymology. We just babbling.
That's a fact. That's a
because
fact.
we say stuff and we have no memory or recall of what the words we use mean. We don't know what they mean. Some of us never looked the definition of some of the words that we use up that they use every day. Right? It used to be a kids show come on called Zoom. But when you say Zoom now, the only thing they think about is the broadcasting format. A Zoom call, right? And zoom comes from camera lingo when you're talking about taking pictures. Zoom means to move in closer. Right? But now in the TV show, it was a kid's show. It changed the whole understanding of a zoom is really to tell you to move in closer with your vision, because it's making reference to the lens of the camera. That's why our cameras have what they call a zoom lens. So you can move what's far up closer. That's telling you to look at something in a certain way. Right? So the words that you don't understand makes you speak babble. But when you speak words that you understand, you speak with intention. Now you speaking creatively, manifesting by telling the truth, by speaking from the place of truth and understanding every word you're saying.
Hey, Rod, she said something about common law. Now, in common law, really, that's the law, the real law, tying in with the supreme law, the land constitution, and all that.
Yeah,
Now,
common law
yeah.
means the law of the common people of the land.
Go ahead.
Common law in England gives you a constable. Common law in Arabia gives you a sharif. Common law in America, under the modern language, gives you what we call a duly elected common law sheriff. All sheriffs are not common law sheriffs. Some of them are administrative.
Right.
Right. Administrative sheriffs are foul of the Constitution, but nobody's enforcing it because they got the guns and we don't. And that's why we had the Second Amendment right to bear arms. Right? Because the whole concept of the right to bear arms was for the people, we the people, to protect ourselves from the tyranny of foreign government that's occupying the territory right now. We needed a means to be able to push them off the land when the time came. But they use all these legal maneuverings to interrupt that right. You can only have a right if you white. That's bullshit. We the ones with the first right to the land and the first right to administer government. Because we was an occupied treaty agreement, we was tolerating the U.S. corporation as a government as long as they abided by the treaty agreements, and they broke every treaty.
Every single one. Go ahead.
They broke every fucking treaty. The only treaties that's unbroken is mostly between tribe to tribe. It had nothing to do with the government of the United States at all. But all of the treaties with the United States Corporation, which is actually the Crown Corporation of England, their America division, and they all the corporations that they sent over here the same way they sent Halliburton, with Dick Cheney sat on the board, to go and rebuild and take control and command in Iraq and Afghanistan after the Gulf War. We repeated all those cycles to remind us of what happened in the early days, because you got to see everything going out that you've seen coming in. It's going to just be upside down and backwards using the mirror effect. So when you got George Washington as the starting point, and Washington is the forest state, and forest is a whole bunch of trees. But then on the way out, you got George Bush and his cronies, what we call the Bush plot. The Bush plot consisted of a whole bunch of people that was mini Bushes. The Clintons, Bill and Hillary, they was cronies of Clinton. You know, George W. Bush, G. Dummy, was his son, and then Barack Obama was his crown jewel. Because that's the foreigner they put in the political seat as the commander in chief of the armed forces of the United States, and as the CEO of the United States Corporation. Well, once they did that, the United States Corporation default. It's constitutionally mandated that you cannot have a foreigner sitting in the office. He had to be born in America.
Right.
All right. Now, he was not born in America. We got him recorded saying, it's true, I was not born in America. You can't get no more direct than a confession from the horse's mouth. That ended the constitutional government, but it didn't end the military responsibility to secure the land against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We are under domestic attack. Now, all of the congressmen and senators who was briefed that there was an operative foreign agent trying to take office and never said nothing, that's called misprision of treason. It's like saying aiding and abetting treason. When the coup was discovered, they tried to get rid of him, but the military decided on this long drawn out continuity of government process as the means by which they would transfer the power back to we the people, which is the tribes. The patriots know that we was going back to the republic, but the republic have to give it back to the tribes because all of their contracts are up. They have no more contracted business here with the Crown Corporation. Not only do they not have any contracted business here, the Crown Corporation itself has been seized by the people from over here.
That's right.
That's why we sent an American Pope over there. We took that shit, homie. The same with the England, the Crown, when they broke the wine. That ain't when we took over. When the crest fell off the gate, look that up.
Yeah.
That's when we took over the Crown Corporation itself, because they was accusing us of crashing into their ship to Plymouth, commemorated by the Plymouth Rock. And Malcolm said we didn't land on Plymouth Rock. Plymouth Rock landed on us. So we know what he's talking about, because the Mayflower was the good ship Plymouth. They told us it was the Mayflower in history books to confuse us about what they did. It was never called the Mayflower. It was called the Plymouth. But in the history books, it's called the Mayflower. And then they told us that all of this time we've been fighting pale faces. We have not been fighting pale faces this whole time.
Right.
But they whitewashed the pictures of the people, because we was fighting black Tudors called conquistadors, and black Frenchmen called Huguenots, and black Englishmen called the gentry. Y'all can look this shit up, each one of them separately. The pale face was what we call the cover story. They put them in all of the royal houses over there in Europe, but ain't none of them motherfuckers had no money. They was broke as anybody in the projects. But they was allowed to live there and pretend to play the part of the royal family. So they was playing dress up. Because when you go back and look at the description of where they got the power from, who was the kings before and queens before in Europe, you'll find out that they whitewashed them all.
That's
like King Henry, big burly ass nigga. Now they paint him as a pale face.
King Charles, blue black boy.
Yeah. But when you see them in history, they paint them as pale faces.
Yeah.
Right? They're doing that on purpose, because remember what the George Washington challenge is, to confuse us about what side of the ocean we from. We know we're not Africans, but now we got to realize we're not Europeans either.
Go ahead.
We our own people from over here. Old Mississippi clay dirt walking, that Southern country boy, barefoot walking around on the dirt roads. Been doing it for thousands of years. Right? So now, where we at? So if you don't understand the occupation, you won't know how to defend yourself. You won't know what you're faced with. You won't know how to address the subject matter. Right? You won't know how to deal with none of this stuff we're talking about. But when you first hear it, it definitely sounds crazy, because that shit sounded crazy to me too, until I was able to prove it.
Hey, somebody, we got a question right here from the crowd. Somebody said that it's about the deputy. It says, let me take this one right here first. It says, what about the people who are just walking up to this information? Will there be a re-education in the schools for us?
That ties right into what the other question about, how do I know the government failed? Melania Trump just came out and said there will be no school startup in this coming August. This is it for the public education system. Now we have to come out and roll out a whole different education system. And they have AI teachers designed to teach children at home while we reassemble where you can hands-on teach them in a controlled learning environment. Right? There would be a re-education program. There would be leadership training seminars that go on all over the land. It would be call to community unity programs where we getting all of the OGs to get the little young G's under control. We reminding them, we telling them what happened to us, how they infiltrated us, how they put people in that look like us to make us kill each other, and how they also dressed up in our clothes as agents of the government to make us fight each other. As long as we was fighting each other, we couldn't see the real enemy.
Somebody said, peace and love, where can a common law sheriff be found? My king, or I guess a husband, is the law enforcement. So where can he go to be deputized, Rod?
You can look for you can ask any sheriff, is he a common law sheriff? The one that's not common law sheriff is gonna beat around the bush to answering the question. The common law sheriff gonna tell you you're a common law sheriff duly elected by the people in his county. And wherever they at, that's what I told them. If y'all want to be in law enforcement, it's a couple of options. ICE is one option, and go get deputized by a proper sheriff. And you can still continue all of your CSI and all of that is still in. They still have those facilities for the sheriff. So our law enforcement and they law enforcement been working side by side. Only theirs indoctrinated ours, so they don't follow the law of the land anymore. They follow the policies of the policy enforcer and give aid and service to them. And that's where you get your administrative sheriff's office from, because they there to pretend to be us. All of them are acting in violation of color of law.
That's right, bro.
Right? They all dressing up in uniforms, masquerading as the law enforcement of the land while they abusing and misusing the people, including the judges. There's hardly any Article 3 judges on the bench. Almost all of them are administrative law judges, which is just a fancy name for a clerk. So the clerks said, well, we don't have no judges because they done ran all the chiefs underground with this war shit. Right? So now, what do we see?
Hey, Rod. I noticed when dealing with these agents, these policy enforcers calling themselves the police, which is the occupied army, that consent. I noticed because I watch a lot of those first 48s, all those cop shows. I noticed like the difference between people who know the Constitution and they enforce it. Like say, like if they search in your car, you say you gotta say I don't consent to searches, even though it's a constitutional right that you have. If you don't assert the right, it's like it don't exist. At least they act like it don't under color of law. These policy enforcers. So what do you say to that? Enforcing knowing your rights, those the law of the land. And not consenting to some of the stuff that they're doing, because I know is when they say I don't consent to searches, when they search in their car, they usually bag off a little bit. They usually don't go and search as hard because they know technically, hey, we can't really search this guy's car without a warrant. Go ahead.
They got case law that gave them what they call something called reasonable suspicion. Now remember, case law is not law. It's the judge's opinion of law, right? So they gave them what's called reasonable articulable suspicion. If you say, I don't consent to the search, to them, that's saying this is reason to search because they must be guilty because they won't let me search. So they use that refusal, that exercising of your right to not be searched as the pretext for the search.
Damn, boy, they cold.
Look, they got a. If you want to understand how the police work, there's a book called "We Get Confessions" that an ex-cop wrote, and he in there he be telling you all of their little dirty. We don't tell you all of them, but he tell you a lot of their dirty tricks, right? And then they got the CIA interrogation manual. They literally teach them ways to deceive you into giving them information. Right? The most popular one we call good cop, bad cop. It's called the Mutt and Jeff routine in a handbook. The Mutt and Jeff routine is one cop come in, he act like he gonna violate all your rights, because he is, but he ain't gonna be the one to do it. The good cop gonna be the one to violate all your rights, and you gonna go along with it because he's a good cop, right? So this is how they play. The one cop coming there, he be like, I know my rights, right? Bad cop. Good cop coming there, I know my rights, yep. We gonna make sure that we help you protect all your rights. They're not gonna help you protect one right.
To the slick, boy.
Right? And so I'm gonna Mirandize you because that's part of your rights. So then read you your rights. That's the right to remain silent. You got a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford one will be appointed to you, et cetera, et cetera. That is derived from a case, Arizona, Miranda versus Arizona, that went to the Supreme Court. That has since been overturned. They don't have to read you your rights no more. Because ignorance of the law is no excuse, but they still keep the charade up so they can use it as a tool to lure you into whatever they want you to confess to. So they use the weirdest shit reason they want to search. If you pay attention to the police, as he walk up to the car, he's already searching the car.
Yeah.
He's already searching the car. What is he looking for? He's looking for anything that could be calculated and extrapolated as a reasonable, articulable suspicion.
Yeah.
Your child got a brush. Your child put her brush in the back of your seat. When he walked past and he say he wanted to search you, and you tell him mom consent to search, and then they put handcuffs. So his reasonable, articulate suspicion is he thought he'd seen the handle of a gun sticking out the back of the seat, but it turned out to be a brush.
Damn.
They trained in this shit. That's their job.
He found a patch of weed. He found a patch of weed in the midst of a suspicion.
Look, it don't matter what he found, because he didn't justify his search. So whatever he found, he can act on, because he justified the search under reasonable, articulable suspicion.
Man, they some fucking
They've
crooks.
never had any intentions of honoring any of our rights. They never had any intentions of honoring any of our rights.
Damn,
So every time we go into the judiciary, because remember, it's three branches of government. It's judicial, executive, and legislative. The legislative is supposed to make the laws. The executive is supposed to enforce the law, and the judicial is supposed to be the medium between law enforcement and accountability. They don't use it for that. It's used as a sifting system for the prison industrial complex as a way to usher you into their system of control and imprisonment. They're trying to imprison as many other potential leaders as possible, as early as possible, before they ever realize that they're supposed to be a chief one day. So once they got you, they don't want to let you go. That's why we get harsher sentences. That's why we get higher conviction rates than the people that commit most of the crimes.
Yeah.
And we know this from the FBI Bureau of Justice Statistics put out a book every 3 years that give you all the statistics of the last couple of years, and it's been consistent. 13% of the population, they roughly commit about that amount of the crime, right? 57% of the crime, according to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, is committed by what they classify as white people. Right? But when you get to the convictions,
White collar.
when you get to the convictions, right, the people that make up 13% of the arrest pool make up 70% of the conviction rate. And the people that make up the biggest majority, most of their cases are resolved before trial.
Damn. That's what Judge
So
Joe Brown said.
but they make everything look off balance. They use the numbers to conceal the dirt. They do it on purpose. They know what they're doing. The only thing is, do we know what they're doing? Because if we don't know what they're doing, we can't stop them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what make us have to go back to the common law.
Mm-hmm. Shout out Dr. Kia Pruitt in the building.
Dr.
Just,
Kia, Dr.
giving you a
Kia.
shout out. Just giving you a shout out on the public. We said stay out the public schools, before it's going down.
Mm-hmm.
Going down. Hey, Rod, I noticed some people that when they handle these guys, these policy enforcers, that they say, "Oh yeah, I want to see your supervisor," right? When the guy, the regular guy, don't want to get down, I say, "Let me see your supervisor," and then the supervisor come out. I didn't see any cases where he didn't want to get down. They say, "Well, I'm gonna call the sheriff. I'm gonna call the sheriff. Y'all want to honor my constitutional rights? I'm gonna call the sheriff out here, man. The sheriff trump you." What you got to say about that, Rod? The sheriff trump the police.
If he ain't working,
you could already explained it, huh?
So we looking at jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
The broader the jurisdiction, the superior the jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
The police is city. The sheriff is county. But the police one up them by creating something called a state police.
Damn.
The state police is not supposed to be called state police. They're supposed to be called the National Park Rangers. That's who the state police is supposed to be. They supposed to govern the rural lands that people don't populate in large density.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't know this though. On a regular everyday person don't know this.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to be digging in them law books and understanding what they're saying in order to be able to say, "Oh, I see what you're doing."
Mm-hmm. Okay, somebody said, Rod, how did our ancestors protect their wealth before, like when these colonizers came, like secretly? Because I know Big Mama got a whole bunch of stashes on the land, and the gold deposits, right? They rigged. I noticed that when the gold rushes happened, like in 1829, Georgia gold rush, you had North Carolina gold rush, 1799. You had the 49ers gold rush, 1849. So they had all these gold rushes. But how did our ancestors protect? Because they didn't get all of our gold. We got shitloads of gold, according to all the ancient stories. We got shitloads of gold, like enough to sink a nigga boat, sank 3,000 boats trying to go back to Africa on the Mansa Musa deal. So what did we do to protect our natural wealth, the mineral rights of the land, right? Somebody asked that question.
It was like nobody was poor, so wherever we kept wealth at, like if I left a gold bar and walked off from it at the store, everybody got gold bar. They don't need it. We didn't have a tendency to pick up other people's shit. So when I get home, I'm 2 days away on horseback. I go, "Oh shit, I left my gold bar." I ride back to the same place where I left it at, and it'll be sitting right there. You can't do that shit now. Look, when the outlaws came, they called them outlaws. The real outlaws is the tribes. The bank robbing outlaws was to disgrace the term for outlaw for the 9 treaty tribes, right? And they used the economic hitmen as bank robbers. And the bank robbers was not robbing the United States banks out west because they didn't have none out there yet.
Jesse James, go ahead. He was a Freemason, Knights of Templar. Go ahead.
Look, the government, the United States government, when they was robbing those banks, the outlaws, there was no U.S. banks out there yet.
Go ahead. You raw.
Those are all tribal banks that had gold on reserve that was being robbed. The major banks, we had vaults. We still got them, but I ain't finna go on TV and tell you where they at. But we got vaults that's loaded with gold and gold artifacts. And I'm gonna tell you, the closest thing I'm gonna tell you with one of that is to tell you to watch National Treasure. And when he discovered the National Treasure, he opened one of Big Mama vaults.
Right.
And that's the closest I'm gonna get to touching that topic.
Black Hills. One of them in the Black Hills. Also, Rod, to go along with it, I believe the Smithsonian Institute it's one under there. That's why they took that Pacific Castle. I believe that was some kind of safety spot too, because it's over trillions of dollars worth of artifacts in that building, that one building alone. And they got it listed as a trust, under a trust. The government got it listed under a trust to the 5 indigenous tribes.
Yeah. Okay, now the Smithsonian has been being used to help them to perpetuate the out of Africa theory.
Right.
If they don't conceal the artifacts concealed by the Smithsonian, the out of Africa theory would have been blown out the water years ago. So they conceal the artifacts that's older than the oldest shit in Africa. Right? You gotta remember, the oldest thing in Africa is the mines of Rafali in South Africa. Right? And that is not oldest artifacts they've recovered from over here. And that's millions of years old. Right? Now, time is relative. And that's why we got 40 different operational calendars right now. And that's why you can keep the world divided into 40 different streams of time. All calendars have a start date from a monumental event of that calendar. Example, we all know that the Christian calendar, the Gregorian calendar that we under, is derived from the 0 point flip from AD to from BC to AD. We know BC mean before Christ, then you got the year 0, then you have AD meaning Anno Domini, right? Which is the year of dominion. Now, in that process, they supposed to be using as the marker for the calendar, the crucifixion story, right? And now, just take the Islamic calendar. The Islamic calendar comes on the heels of something called the Hijra. And the Hijra was a certain amount of years before the birth of Muhammad. So the Islamic calendar in the year probably 1590 something to 16 something, that calendar is talking about the year the Hijra as its point of origin. The reason the Hijra is so important is because it tells you the story about an advancing army on elephant back. And this army was interrupted by some birds dropping balls of fire from the sky. I ain't making this up. Go look up the Hijra story. What you don't know about the Hijra story is those birds in the sky is not birds. Just like them drones that they flying in bombing Israel with is not birds.
Right, Rod. Makes sense. Advanced technology in the Bible. Go ahead.
And the elephant army had to be based on geography coming from the Candace queens of Ethiopia. The only reason they would be coming is because the one they call Alat was under attack. Because they was the ones with the elephant army before Hannibal. The elephant army of Hannibal was sheep dipped from the Ethiopian Empire to give aid in the service in the fight against Rome. The Candace queens are the ones who used the elephants as tanks in warfare, and that's why they were so feared by the Romans. We don't remember, we don't know the history, so we can't tell you this stuff if we don't know the history. Now, you got another calendar, right? We have what's called the Coptic calendar. That's a whole nother time frame.
Mhm.
And that's supposed to be founded on the beginning of the Coptic church. I forget what the year count is in the Coptic calendar. But that's 3 different timelines with 3 different points of origin. The Gregorian calendar was actually an adaptation from the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was put in place by Julius Caesar. And the Gregorian calendar was put in place by Pope Gregory. Julius Caesar, I call him gay-ass Julius Caesar because his first name is Gaius. Sound like gay-ass to me.
Yes. That's good.
But what they setting up is blinders because they got to put you on a controllable timeline. How do they control it? They can only control it by what they can convince you to believe. That's it.
Mhm.
Rebel against everything you know until you can prove it wasn't a psyop. I made a post a couple days ago. It said, Moors, revisit Noble Drew Ali's caveat emptor.
Write that down.
It's part of Moorish literature. Because he told us they was going to come and try to give us bogus information. Dogma and sensationalism. He told us in Circle 7 that they was using religious controversy. That's why it's in there. He didn't do nothing haphazard. It all makes sense in the overall picture, but in the minds of a lot of the people that have been miseducated in the Moorish doctrine, a lot of the stuff I say is inflammatory. So I just light their ass on fire. I just keep them inflamed. Because the good Moor is going to see the difference in what I'm saying, and the dirty Moor is just going to be mad. And I don't care. Right? So everything have its purpose. If you know what they're using, you can defend yourself. We telling you what they use, and then you can't defend yourself by yourself against a whole nation of people that believe that the enemy is right and you wrong. You will never win that battle. You'll become a martyr.
Yeah. Somebody says, how will the distribution of process look as far as housing for the copper colored people, especially landlords or property management get removed, non-forcible deportation, deported. I just take it. Yeah, deported.
Deported. You just said deported it. Listen, my job is not to care who get deported. That's not my job. My job not to care who come in here. That's not my job either. My only job is to speak up for the collective tribes without making distinction. When they make a assembly to catch the government that failed and put a tribal structure in place, my job to the public could be done. Now I go to the private, and then I use the skills I've been using over the last 7 years teaching to focus in to different groups. What do they need to know? We started doing leadership summits and setting up reading lists, training lists. How do you get them, all this stuff. How to restructure a tribe, you know what I'm saying? How to reorganize your family, how to tie the family bank together to for the family to have more financial capability. Now, how the money is going to come back, most likely is going to be through the same way they took it, because the structure is already in place. We just had to reverse the flow. The reverse flow looked like tariff dividends, right? The tariff dividends is just holdover money until the matriarchs secure all of the resources and know who need what where. Individuals will be all right and families will be all right in the interim while we restructuring government. As the government becomes restructured, then that gives us a foundation to get resources to everybody. Government is not supposed to be in your day-to-day life.
That's right.
Government function is to allocate resources to critical places and to make sure that major works, what we call it community works like bridges, infrastructure, roads, that's government job. Government job is not to monitor if you're going 30 or 50. Right? Now, out of courtesy and concern for other people that's living, the speed limit is just a suggestion to keep you from fucking somebody up.
Right, regulations and suggest. Yeah. Somebody said, how do we keep what has been done from being repeated in the future? It's a long
It's
list of
all
shit that
like,
we discussed.
yeah, it all hinges on how we raise children. We can raise children to be racist and religious zealots and to take sides in other people's bullshit, or we can raise them all to be a sovereign individual with self-control and control of their immediate controllable environment. So how we raise children, remember, they took our raising our children from us and regulated it.
Mm-hmm.
In their system, the government is the third parent.
Mm-hmm. The ward.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
In the matriarchal system that we was under, family law looked different. A child custody case would look something like this. Her women that's over her sisters, aunties, or grandmama or grandmama, she would have 3 of them. And then I have 3 of them over me. And they gonna say, based on what they've seen from us, dealing with the kids, interacting, what we do, how we contribute, they're gonna discuss it with each other. Let's say we both piece of shit parents. You know what they gonna do?
Yeah.
They gonna find 2 people on both sides of the family to raise these children. They won't let 2 piece of shit parents have the child. But if it's 1 piece of shit parent and a good parent, 98% of the time is going to the good parent.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2% is for the times where they might go to the bad parent's mama or grandmama or auntie. But majority of the time, the good parent end up with the child, and the bad parents' visitation rights will be they got visitation rights. They're supposed to be able to see their child, but the control measure is this: somebody from her family come pick the children up and take them for her to have their family time, and vice versa. If it's him, somebody from his family have to be responsible to go get the children for their parenting time. When you have a breakup of a hostile nature, you don't allow them to interact unless they choose to do so on their own. You don't put the children between them. They can't use children for bargaining chips. If you want to fix your relationship, these auntie and this auntie take the children, split them between them while y'all work on your relationship. Right? And some people just don't need to be in relationships. Some people not functional in them.
That's right, Rod.
You know, and they need to live out in the middle of nowhere in the yurt.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Somebody said a quick, sure real estate agent won't exist anymore after the change in power. What will be the process of getting a land property in the future, Rod?
That's a good question, because under the matriarchy, it's allotment. So if it's a plot of land that's not assigned to somebody, it'll be listed locally where you can get that plot of land assigned to you. And then you'll have to go through the litany of questions, what you're going to do with the earth, you know what I'm saying, what you're going to use the land for, different stuff like that. But the odds of you getting rejected is a lot slimmer than they is now. Well, you say that he's quite sure there will be no real estate agents in the future, right? When the power shift happens. When the first thing you're gonna notice is gonna be when the dollar crash and the currency is about to switch over, they're gonna do a moratorium on mortgages and rent. Nobody not gonna be able to pay them. The reason why it would affect mortgages is because under mortgage laws, when the mortgage change, when the currency change, the mortgage is supposed to go to the one who holds the property, which is, they classify you as tenant in the mortgage agreement. But you really the owner.
They usurpers under the usurper agreement.
Yeah. And so, and the reason it'd be a moratorium on rent is because you won't be able to just move a person instantly from, like, you know how they throw people's stuff out, you won't be able to do that no more. Under the matriarchy, if you put people property out in an eviction setting, right, because it's your building, you would have had to put their property and secure their property for them for 90 days. If we was using anything like the old system, right? You wouldn't be able to just throw people's stuff out on the curb for other people to come plunder through it. That would have been prohibited. Under the patriarchy, it's absolutely allowed. Throw their shit out. Fuck them. It's the difference in the systems.
All right, I'm going to roll this clip right here because I want to break you to go in on this clip. Let me roll this clip because it's mainly about him talking about how the cities are and states or federal corporations incorporated. Go ahead, let me play this real quick.
Roll the porn.
And this is what we did. This is what we did to help out Dr. Kevorkian. We made sure that his lawyer got this knowledge. We went in there and we dug up a writ of quo warranto. A writ of quo warranto. Right? Now, this doesn't look like much, but let me tell you something. What we're talking about doing here, see, most cities, at least in the state of Michigan, are by Public Act 230 Public Acts or Public Act 287 of Public Acts, and in every one of them there is a rights and powers section. Usually it's recorded at 2.2 or 3.1, and it basically says, and I quote, subject to the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan, the city of or the township of has rights and powers too. And then it starts listing the rights and powers. Right to have a police department, right to have a fire department, right to have a city hall, right, and it starts listing all these powers. Now, the antithesis to the argument is that if they're not within the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan, they don't have any rights and powers. Does that make sense to everybody? In other words, they're in violation of their corporate charter, their franchise. They promised they would be within the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan. Now, a lot of people, they don't understand the power of this argument, so I want to really push this one home. I want you to understand. Whenever these little townships and these little cities and what have you, they start acting like King Farouk and that you don't matter and that they don't got to listen to you, this is what I want you to do. You ask them a pointed question and ask them, are you violating my constitutionally secured civil rights by however you claim they are? Because if you are, you have just waived your right to be the city of. And they'll laugh at you for a little bit, okay? Then you explain to them Public Act 230 of Public Acts, which states the rights and powers section, subject to the Constitution of the United States and the general laws of the state of Michigan. You have rights and powers. The antithesis to that argument is if you're not going to be within the Constitution of the United States or the general laws of the state of Michigan and you're going to violate my constitutional rights and trample my rights, what we're going to do here is we're going to go for a writ of mandamus in quo warranto. That's a legal term, fancy legal term. But it is an ancient law that goes way back to England in the ancient times. And basically here is a judgment and a capious action for it, right? You put down here the case. The case came on regularly for trial before the Honorable, and you put the judge's name in there, whatever it is, on a jury trial or non-jury trial, dated such and such. The name appeared as for your counsel, and the name appeared for opposing counsel, right?
And so pretty much, and I went over this already, and I got a tape coming out on the writ, the ranto. Or really, I got a tape. It's like 30 minutes long. It breaks down all of the writs, like the federal habeas corpus, all the different writs. But this is the point I want to. This is the question I want to ask. Based on what he's saying, that all of these cities and towns and states are pretty much, I know under the Buck Act, all the states under the Buck Act 1940 that brought all of the states under the federal jurisdiction and corporation. So based on what he's saying is that all these things they are incorporated, and they some of them pretty much don't have nothing to do with the Constitution. A lot of them chartered from over. A lot of these cities are chartered from London. Come to find out, what do you got on that, Rod?
We
About
already
the
said. We already told
go
you the whole system, the whole layout of the modern system has had to be rewritten, right? The lines of demarcation going to change. The names of certain cities is going to change, if not a lot of cities. But that's because most of the stuff we under now, like the state lines, are military zones. And the military zones was mapped out by the military commands from England, not from over here. If you go to Georgia, is a perfect example. When you do history on Georgia, you will find out that Georgia was created by King George as a military buffer zone. The goal was to stop the tribes that was coming from the West that was supporting the Gullah Wars in Florida, because who we was fighting in Florida? The Spanish. The French was already out of the war when King George came and established Georgia. Which take us to Rashad Jamal. That's why he had to be locked up in Georgia. Tucson. Reversed everything we seen coming in, we got to see going out. Now, as we move closer to the shift in power, he can get ready to come home, because it's the reenactment of the first time that Toussaint was locked up. He's coming out of the conjure, the Haitian revolutionary conjure, right? Because he's the blood descendant of Toussaint, right? So when you realize how this stuff works, it'll click for you. Okay, the militarized zone of Georgia was a request from the King of England. No, the president. One of the presidents requested that because the Spanish was tied up fighting multiple wars, and the English was struggling with the northeastern tribes, the Delaware Indians, the New York tribes, the New Jersey tribes, the tribes from up in Maine. They was whooping the English in the north, and the Spanish is losing so bad that they know that if the Gullahs win in the south, that's it for all of us, because they coming north next. But they first had to derail this Spanish incursion in the islands and in Florida, right? So they had wrote a letter, somebody in DC, president, write a letter to the King of France. And when he write the letter to the King of France, he said, hey, we need a military buffer zone, and our resources is stretched thin. We need you to blockade this area to stop the movement of the tribes. That's why Georgia was created. Now, all of these states are militarized zones, right? As they capture a territory, like remember, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, and Indiana is called the Northwest Territory. Right? And the Plains is called the Great Plains Territory. Also referred to as Indian Territory. These was how we had the land mapped up, and they was naming it based on where our geography mapped out where our tribes was, right? Some tribes had a little bit of land. Some tribes had a whole lot of land, depending on their function on the land. And so some tribes had multiple tribes together in close proximity, and they always formed something called a confederation. You know why they call it a confederation?
Why?
A confederation means we walk together. Nobody's in front, nobody's in the back. We walk together. We're doing this together in unison. That's why they call it a confederation. Confederation means to move together in a unit, as a single unit. So when they formed those confederacies, they was agreeing that where one go, we all go. So you had several different confederacies. You had the Cherokee Confederacy, the Creek Confederacy, the Muskogee Confederacy. You had the Cherokee Confederacy, the Wichita Confederacy, the Ojibwe Confederacy. Every time you say confederacy, it was a group of tribes that had a similar ideological belief system that was in close proximity to each other. And that's why we needed you to go to New Orleans so that you could be examined by the aged women of the land down there. So they say he need to be with this tribe. He need to be with the Bloods. He need to be with the Vice Lord. He need to be with the Stones. He need to be with the El Rookins. The big mamas used to appoint you to where you're supposed to be. That's why we had the Big Easy was the original inlet port for foreigners. They end up creating Ellis Island, and then they created one in Texas so they don't have to answer to the rightful immigration in New Orleans. Everything we did, they tried to make something similar and bypass us so they can look like they're the only ones doing it. All our stuff, from the car to the light bulb to railroads, right, to the horses. They act like we ain't had no horses over here. If we ain't had no horses over here, why the hell the Apache is the greatest horse riders in the history of the world? Make this shit make sense.
Them niggas ride bareback. You know what I'm saying? Bareback.
I'm just saying that it's historically agreed upon that they was the greatest horsemen known to man. Only rivaled by Genghis Khan's army. Right? Now, trace the origin of the horse. You find out that motherfucker came from here.
That's right. The plains, West Plains.
How the hell they get all over there? If it came from over here, how they get it?
Somebody rode them over there.
Somebody rode them over there. Same with the elephant. The elephant and the oldest pachyderms come out of America. The descendant of the modern day Asian and African elephant come from America. But they want us to believe that everything started in Africa.
Mm-hmm.
What about the camel? Mm-hmm. Closest kin is the llama. He's from Central America.
That's right.
Right? That's how they knew that he could handle the temperatures in motherfucking Arabia. How did they get there? There wasn't no Noah's Ark. There's no mention of camels in the Bible, nowhere. And I could think of, I heard of an ass in the Bible, a donkey. I never read about no, matter of fact, I'm gonna look it up while we on here. See,
and I know camels predate the Bible. Camels go back 6 billion years coming from South Central America. 6 billion years. So, I mean, if the Bible don't got camels, it might have it in another word, but I don't remember seeing camels in there. It might though. I ain't for sure on it, but I don't remember seeing camels.
Yes, it is. It's in Leviticus because I remember it was given a description of the camel not to eat.
Oh, okay, all right, okay.
But I'm gonna make sure though. I'm still finna check.
Yeah, I'll look it up to see how many times that is mentioned. But still though, like I say, camels would predate the Bible storyline by a long shot. So they had to be shit. I would be surprised if they were before Adam and Eve, based on the timeline. 50,000 years is what they gave us at the maximum timeline. Some people say 6,000 years with the Adam and Eve story. The camels go back 6 billion years over in America. We have reason to believe that the Almacs is the ones that rode them back over to Africa. The Almacs people. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. I got another question for you, Rod. The question is, people saying about before I get into the draft thing, because you just said something about they arrested Rashad Jamal and he was a reincarnation. Could you go in on these Shriners and these secret societies and how they watch the stars to see when Chiefs gonna be reborn so they can kill them, just like they did Emmett Till and the rest of the Chiefs?
Well, camels are in the Bible. It said camels appear over 50 times in the Bible.
50 times. All right, thank you for that update. So
okay,
shit,
look.
Go ahead.
If you can map where Chief died at, right, and you know how long he lived, it's a mathematical formula to tell you, because you got to use the longitude and latitude in the equation and the stellar alignments of the death date.
Okay.
Everything has what they call an adjunct star. For instance, whenever you're doing a zodiac, they got something called the adjunct. That means they are on a certain relationship to the energy of the sign, right? Then you have what's called the retrograde. The retrograde means the energy that returns. Now, just because the planet is not in a literal retrograde, as far as the return of the individual, they can still have a retrograde in their return, but it might not show up as a major retrograde. It might show up something minor, like an eclipse or something, but it'll be a tale based off who the chief was, where he was where he lost his life at or died at, and then the type of trauma that caused his death will determine also how soon he come back.
The imprint.
Yeah. So they'll use those charts of the zodiac, where the stars at in the sky when you die, and they'll use the longitude and latitude of where you died at. And then they will do what's called a natal chart. And then they'll take the natal chart and they'll do something what's called a next natal chart, which will plot the path for your return. Using that as the template. They'll do the retrograde view of it, and it'll show them this. He's going to be born right here on this day. Then normally they give it a grace period because of the turnaround time. Turnaround time give you 72 hours before or after, right? So they'll know within 3 days before or after your birth, you're going to come in that time frame. Within them 7 days. So they got 7 days of probability to draw from that you're going to come in. And the name of the days is significant too, right? The sun day is the day of the sun. That's the day of Ra. Monday is the day of the moon, et cetera, on. They are different deities. But the reason they different deities because they derive a different frequency of energy, right? And they know that the moon day is called the lazy day. It's really supposed to be the relaxed day. Sunday and Monday is supposed to be the relaxed day, right? The two most prominent visual objects in our sky is the moon and the sun. Right? Sunday being the first day, it's the day where you put your plans on paper. And then Moon Day is your rest day. It's the day where you relax. Well, they want you to get stirred up on Moon Day to fuck your energy up for the rest of the week. That's why they made it the first day. Right? When Sunday really the first day.
That's right, Rod.
So they flipping the magic on you.
Hey, somebody asked Rod, what about this new draft that Donald Trump, these guys is sending out? Some people say, man, they gonna smoke them, make sure they got some weed in their system, so they can't be accepted to the draft. Some people say they go eat 2,000 hamburgers so they can be overweight. What's your take? Yeah, right. It says, hey, nigga, ain't no way I'm going to fight for the enemy at this point. And like none of our people. Go ahead, Rod.
We don't have to fight in their war. And the case that you need to show it is the people of the United States versus Muhammad Ali.
Go ahead.
Right? As a conscientious objector, when your war is at home, they can't deploy somebody else's army to fight their army to fight their foreign wars. Right? And Muhammad Ali, being indigenous, was able to exercise his right not to go using the term conscientious objector. It's also the status to be exempt from the draft. But read the case, because you got to know what they ruled in the case in order to understand how they had to pay him back. Like, they never compensated him for preventing him from fighting for 5 years. They supposed to compensated him for that. They never did. But they allowed him to have a boxing license, which gave us some of the greatest fights in history. The Thriller in the Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, so that's one thing that they talking about between, I think, the ages of 18 and 26, I think they said.
No, they raised the age. They raised the draft age, I think, is from 18 to 30, and I think the enlistment age is from 18 to 40.
Okay.
And you know, if you get a high enough score, you can go in at 17, as early as 17.
Yeah, I went in at 17. I was in at 17. So I was on reserve until I graduated out of high school, and then once I graduated out of high school, they sent me straight into basics.
Was you in ROTC?
No, I wasn't in ROTC. If I wish I would have got an ROTC, because I would have went in with a higher rank. Most people that was in ROTC,
you came in with commission status instead of non-commission status.
Yeah. So I thought about that after. I said, damn, I thought ROTC was bullshit. But if you go into the military, ROTC it's like a fucking advancement for you when you get into the military.
What it is, it's you ever heard of West Point Military Academy? Well, that's where they train people to be officers in the military.
Okay.
Right. And it's military structure. A lot of the pale-faced children used to get sent to military school back in the 70s, 60s, and before, because that was the way for them to train them in warfare and being a man. Because they didn't know how to do it. They couldn't control their temperament. So they started sending them off to military school. And then they made movies where serial killers or revenge killers be out mad because his parent had him, put him in military school, and he don't want to talk to his parents no more, but they filthy rich. Yeah. So they really don't have to be filthy rich. They were sending them from the lower middle class to upper class, and they were sending them to military school. So when they go into the military, they come in with what they call commission status. Right. If you come through the ranks, you're what they call a non-commissioned officer, NCO. But if you come in through a program, a military schooling program, an educational program in military science, etc., you can come in with commission status. That's just to keep you off the battlefield in reality. But you can join the army, but you don't have to go fight, because you can stay back and help strategize because somebody's trained in strategy.
We'll take about one or two more questions. Get out of here. Somebody said, question, my elder grandparents are gone. I've been doing my tribal research. My ancestry come from Virginia. Hey, I'm dropping a tape on Virginia this week, the indigenous Virginia tribes,
Yeah, he's making
Mississippi
a
and
statement. He's
Louisiana.
not asking the question though.
Oh, okay, he's not asking the question. He says, question my elder. Like, oh, did he question his elders? Oh, he questioned his elders. I don't know. I don't get what he's saying. Okay,
He
yeah,
said he's been
but
doing his research. Basically, he's been doing his research,
okay.
talking to his elders, and looking through those records and stuff. He says,
Somebody said,
"Oh, he couldn't talk to his elders because they was deceased, but he was
yeah,
able to go back through the records."
and find out, yeah, Virginia. Hey, like I'm finding out that some of them Virginia tribes got moved to Alabama. Then they left Alabama and went to Louisiana. Then they left Louisiana and went to Texas. It's like when they was attacking us from the east, it was different tribes had to go and refuge with different other tribes in the west.
Yeah, right. So remember, well, most of us that was coming from west to east to fighting the Gullah Wars, when the treaty was signed by the other tribes, the ones that's supposed to hold the bear, we call 5 civilized tribes. Their job was to have the paperwork hold the enemy at bay long enough for us to figure out how to win the entirety of the war. Right? So that's why you'll never hear me talk slack about the 5 civilized tribes. Right? Now, I'm coming out of an outlaw Mississippian tribe. I'm not coming from a contracted 5 civilized tribes because I could go through my father's charter, the same as Chief Warhorse. That's the same tribal ancestry. Only we got a different side of the family from her coming down the family tree. So she stayed closer. She stayed in Louisiana where my father and them, part of the tribe, migrated up into what we call Canton, Mississippi. Right? And then he tied in off of his fatherland through the charter, but his motherland is Mississippi Redtail. So he coming off 2 different lands because my direct tribe, growth and development, is coming off of an old Mississippian land. I don't have to I can stay under the 9 treaty tribe, is basically what I'm trying to say. I don't have to honor or represent a treaty tribe that I don't have a treaty with. I'm not part of the treaty agreement. Right? They just was supposed to hold the bear. If they wasn't holding the bear, there would have been no Article 77 in the Iroquois Constitution. Right? Because they had to tell us to stand down and to return back home, what they call the industrial migration. But if you go back 100 to 200 years before that, you'll see that all of the migration was coming from north to south, going back east. And all of the southern migration, even to this day, was the Mexican migration, as they call it. But it also brings people from all of South America through Mexico in the northern migration, and they always make that sharp turn to the right, going back east. That's because we had called all tribes on deck warning. Call for aid and assistance. So all of the tribes was coming. And they was coming prepared for war. And the enemy was able to catch some of the tribes in passing and have them misled about who we was to take us to war and start fighting against us. So they was skilled in warfare. The early days, we was getting out strategized. They not finna do it no more. On birthright citizenship reversal, any relating to the tribes.
Just Star Act. Let me see what they say. The Solic Act.
But
let me look that up. I know what that is.
Listen, The 13th and the 14th Amendment is the continuation of slavery under a new brand.
That's right.
The birthright citizenship, when you see the word citizen, replace it with slave. The people that was using that as an excuse to have anchor babies so they can live here and not be deported is not as much of the issue as it is the fact that by classifying non-treaty tribesmen as citizens and lying to them about what it means, you took away their sovereignty against their will. Now they have a right to rebel when they figure that part out. You tricked them into being a slave by telling them the birthright citizenship was for the descendants of slaves in order to be re-enslaved. But the whole slave narrative comes from us fighting a war and becoming POWs, because in the history of the world, every slave class was the result of somebody else warring with somebody else. Slavery is derived from warfare as one of the spoils of war in ancient and modern times.
Right.
Right?
Go along with the thing. Just so
Yeah. So that's
just
why
so
they had us occupied so long. We wasn't strategizing our way beyond the control mechanisms that they brought, because they convinced us not to use our oral traditions and our systems. The systems is like, did you see that Tupac video I sent you?
Yeah, wait, yeah, say that Tupac is back.
Right. Did you hear what he said in there though? About the smoke?
He was saying something in the mirror, like, yeah, they I can't remember exactly what he said, but yeah.
But in the video, the voice is saying that, remember I was talking about I read smoke signals?
Yeah.
That's why I sent it to you, because he make mention of it in there.
It says right here, just solid rights of the soil is a legal principle granted automatic citizenship to children born within the country territory regarding their parental citizenship commonly found in America. In U.S. law, it is mandatory by the 14th Amendment for anyone born under its jurisdiction. So that's what the meaning of that just soil mean.
Yeah. So the overturn of it though is the overturn of the slavery aspect of citizenship. That make you not be a taxpayer, but it make you a tax collector. Once you become a tax collector, then you will be collecting taxes through tariff. Right? That's why the debt clock, I should have sent you this receipt, but the debt clock is now doing what they call a dividend count. Right? And the dividend count bar is in gold, because this is all gold counting. This is not fiat counting. So it's a new currency, even the interim currency that's going to bridge us from the paper United States Federal Reserve note that's going to bridge us to the gold money, the Trump notes. The Trump notes is going to be backed by gold. As of 12 midnight at July the 4th, the Federal Reserve note in at 11:59 January the 3rd. So we already got the date when the currency gonna switch. Now, the Trump notes are going to be there to phase out the Federal Reserve note, to give people the opportunity to get rid of that old currency and to circulate it in by capturing the new currency. It's a way of trying to help you secure your asset before the flip. So when it flip, the fiat, the only thing gonna be left is certain collectors, right? And once the collector valuable is gone, because they're gonna have stipulations on how to pay out on collectible Federal Reserve notes, right? So the interim currency, once it becomes the dominating circulating currency, then all of the fiat notes that's like people got under their mattress, they need to start switching them out. Because once they get rid of the fiat note, they're going to continuously burn them as they come in. They're going to continuously destroy them as they come in. And they're going, because even the gold back note is going to have some real gold on it. But it might not be the full value of the note in gold on it, but it will have some gold on it. So it'll always maintain some kind of value.
Hey, Rod, last question right here, Rod. On the screen, it says, Rod, what is scarce
What is sacred
about
about
Grand
Grand
Rapids?
Rapids, Michigan?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Hold
let me put
on.
back on that. My bad.
Look,
Not city.
so
Okay.
Grand Rapids was a Ottawa resort city. And it used to be like we used to raft down the Grand River in old times. This is where you see the Wyoming whitewater rafting. It originated in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And it became infectious and passed to the other parts of the land. Just like hockey was I call them the sons of Scotia. They brothers from Nova Scotia invented hockey and taught it to some Europeans on a lake one day. Right? So this all recorded history, so you can look it up, the brothers that created hockey. But Grand Rapids also hold like a spiritual energy, because the Grand River it's a mini version of the Mississippi. Right? All of these, Michigan is the land of water. So it's where the earth element and the water element mingle. And running water always carry what we call a positive spiritual force effect. Right? So like all of these rivers now, they have to be dredged. They have to dredge all of the rivers because they deliberately poison them. So when the matriarch is in power and they wanted to know what do we need to do to clean up the land, that was one of the things I had to answer for. The only remedy to get the sludge that's contaminated out of the water is to dredge the river. The problem was the cost. Well, there is nothing too expensive to fix Mother Earth.
Right.
That we
The water.
fucked up.
Number one. Yeah.
If Mother Earth decides to stop doing Earth, we in trouble. She was human resonance to turn all our mitochondrial off if we don't do our jobs as the caretakers of the earth. So to do our job, we got to know how to clean up all their mess, right? And plastic is going to be gone. The only thing that's going to look plastic is going to be made out of hemp. And plastic ruined too much wildlife by its mere presence and the recklessness of human nature. So the only way to protect the animals from the plastics is to suspend the production of plastics. That means you have to go back to glass bottles instead of plastic, wooden cups instead of plastic, right? And this is also like a lot of stuff going to be made out of bamboo because it's cheap and easy to work with. And it got so many viable functions. So you might have bamboo cups, bamboo bowls instead of plastic.
That makes a lot of sense.
Those microplastics that get in our system is part of the reason why our arteries clog up so fast. Because when the first plaque comes, it's just cholesterol, which the body can dissolve over time. But when it catches the microplastics, it causes it to lay a layer of white blood cells on top of the microplastic fighting it, which makes more of the cholesterol stick to the white blood cells as they die off, fighting the microplastic, which accelerates the buildup in the arteries that shut your arteries down. So we got to get rid of the plastic. Everything has to be solved. Remember the leadership chapter in the Holy Tablets?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Hey, you know what I was
whatever,
thinking about too? They had a whole city made of plastic in the holy tablets. About it was made out of plastic. So like I don't know, like the plastic. I know, like as far as us consuming, I don't think that's good. But like building a whole, these suckers build a whole city out of plastic in the center of the earth, allegedly from what they told us
but that's
from the
not the
map.
same kind of plastic we even use.
That's what. Okay, yeah. Okay, I can see that. Go
The
ahead.
plastic we've been using is derived from oil,
Yeah, gasoline. That's right, Rod. Go ahead.
right? When you do crude oil, one of the chemicals they siphon off is used to because it's going to spit into oil and gas,
That's right. It's a dude that's making gas out of plastic right now.
right? So because when they get their first crude, when they pumping the oil out the ground, the gas is weaved in the oil. It's in the oil. So they have to go through a refining process to separate the oil from the gas. And in that process, one of the offshoots is what they use to make plastic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Now, using the same chemical, the DuPonts discovered that they can make nylon and polyester. They couldn't wait to do that because we made cotton products and hemp products. Hemp and cotton, hemp became banned with the laws that the DuPont sponsored to suspend marijuana.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to really get rid of the get high weed. The purpose was to stop the hemp industry. Right? The original denim was a blend of hemp and cotton. And it used to last for years. Right? Then the DuPonts wanted to replace as much of this stuff as they could with their polyester and nylon. Now, back then, I don't know if they knew it or not, but now modern science reveals that those products release microparticles of petroleum-based plastics into your system. When it does that, that's where you get those microplastics in the body that accelerate the blocking the organs and stuff. It's coming from that, right? Remember, we used to make clothes out of wool, silk, cotton, and hemp, and animal skins. This polyester, this methane fuel-based stuff is not necessary because the stuff we used before, it costs the same to make it. It lasts longer, but you don't mass produce it like you do nylon and polyester. But now we done got so good with production because we was under military control, Enlil's control of the military to learn how to do this stuff with military precision. So all these factories, they using child labor, that's all that Enlil shit. We use child labor for a different purpose. We use it to teach them. Come on, baby, help grandmama wash these beans and pop these pot peas. Right? The baby's doing the work. She's helping the big mama, and big mama talking to the baby, telling them stories about family members or whatever she's telling them. But the child labor is being beneficial, but it's also being beneficial to the learning curve of the child. Right? The only reason why we be as lazy as we be because we was told that we was lazy. So we had to prove that we knew how to do it. We don't got to be lazy. You just gotta structure what you do. You can be lazy if you structure what you do and still get shit done. But you have to
Hey,
be
bro.
disciplined.
That's right. Shout out that boy Ham. He said, "Them wicked." He must be from Jamaica. Them wicked man. Them wicked man.
Look, the more they understand the mechanics of what they doing, the less that shit work on them. That's why I keep explaining this shit ad nauseum. But look, I ain't mad at the Dirty Moors. You know why?
Right.
If you don't have a worthy adversary, you can never reach your worth. Them some bad motherfuckers.
Oh yeah, I got my gun out. We're talking to trust me.
Yeah, I don't trust them. I don't like them. I don't need them. But they some bad motherfuckers.
Yeah, they real slick, boy.
Yeah, they was able to walk right next to us without us never knowing they was there, based on the narrative they gave us about skin color racism. That's some genius shit.
Infiltration at its highest form.
Yeah. So if you a student of war, man, that shit cold. That's a cold play. Like that shit right there, that's a historical feat of monumental proportions. You literally raising your babies in the midst of these motherfuckers that you swore to be your enemy and you didn't even tell them. You act like you was right along with them. But when they throw up the right hand, you gotta throw up the left because you can't be like them niggas.
Right. Right. Hey, shout out that big bro Maurice Koofy, man, for the super chat, man. Shout out to everybody that dropped the super chat. Hey, y'all, look here, man. Everybody that dropped the super chat, send Rod $50, man, right now on the Cash App. We got about 1,600 people on. Everybody send Rod $5 a piece, or $10, or $20 if you got it. All my high rollers, send them 100 so you can put them in the game till next Wednesday when we come back on, man. We got to take care of the chief. Hey, what I was gonna say, oh yeah, y'all hit that like, hit that subscribe button, man. Me and Top Cat gonna be on legendary Top Cat down from Houston, man. Big Top Cat gonna be in the building on Friday doing the Cherokee breakdown. It's gonna be epic. You don't want to miss that, man. That's gonna be lit.
Yeah,
We got Top Cat in the building.
I think I got Top Cat tomorrow.
Yeah, so yeah, it's probably gonna be you, Top Cat, and Dame, right? Probably you, Top Cat, and Dame. Shout out Dame too in the family, man. Dame Calloway, man. Yeah, shout out Top Cat and his people down there in Houston, man. They're gonna be in the building on Friday. Man, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Everybody send Chiefs a donation right now, man. It ain't gonna hurt you. $5, $10, $20, whatever you got. Go ahead, put them in the game till the next time we come on. Like I said, we gonna keep you updated. I got a whole bunch of I got videos lined out coming out every day. I got them lined up for the next 14 days. You probably don't see some of the tapes on there, but I already got them lined up for the next 14 days on all kind of shit, like the Federal Reserve, all kind of tapes coming out. Different tribal tapes, extraterrestrial tapes. If anything that me and Rod went over, I got AI overviews coming out on it, on the video side. So the AIs is just like undernotes and underscores to a lot of the stuff that we teach on the live side. So tune in for that. Hey, shout out that boy B there, man, and Black Magic, man. We about to get up out of here, man. Like I say, so Chiefs of Love on the Cash App, y'all. My guys in London, we got the PayPal on now too for you guys that don't got Cash App, and my guys in South Africa. Shout out my guys in South Africa and in Australia. We got fans in Australia, bro.
I didn't talk to people in Australia. They didn't call me on Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, that's interesting. And they fighting the same similar struggle as us. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. Yeah.
When we get ours, they get theirs. Everything starts coming down like dominoes.
Yeah, it's a worldwide event, man. This is a worldwide event. The war is ongoing worldwide. You know what I'm saying? And the same guys, it's just did everybody. If you go and see who the Australians pointing the finger at, they pointed at the crown and Rome. The same people we pointing at, the crown and Rome. Everybody's pointing at these guys, saying, "Hey, man, y'all all us and y'all, we want our shit. Run it right now. Ain't no debating it. We already know. Run our shit." Australia saying run they shit. The South Africans saying run they shit. Right? The Chinese saying run they shit, and we real Amarucans, we the Amarucans, we saying run our shit. Hey man, we about to get up out of here, y'all. We love y'all. Free Malachi Z. York. Free Larry Hoover. Free Jeff Fort, the L Rookie, man. Let the three chiefs walk. We out. We love you all. Divine love throughout the violence universe. Let the matriarchs rise. We out the building, man. Peace. One love, one heart.
Peace.
Never have it been made so clear.